Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my response video to the 2025 National Jewish Book Award shortlist. So the National Jewish Book Awards are hosted by the Jewish Book Council. They've been going on since 1950 in the US. And right now we're covering about 18 categories in various literature, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, what have you, that are judged by a variety of judges from the literary world, readers and reviewers and writers and what have you. And usually what happens is that in January they announce the winners and runners-up in all of their categories. This year they decided to tease us with a short list where they listed all the books, but we don't actually know what they're shortlisted for category by category. They're going to officially announce that in February, and then there's a bigwig ceremony in March. But I'm always very excited about this award because I live on the Jewish Book Council website. So basically, this is the awards where I'm actually quite well versed in most of the literature in contention. And I've read a few of them as well. And so what I plan to do here is just respond to 7 titles in nonfiction and 7 titles in fiction that I've read or otherwise interest me, and we'll just quickly go through them together. I'm going to start with fiction, and actually the first 3 titles are not part of the National Jewish Book Awards, but I thought I'd mention them anyway to broaden the playing field, particularly toward literature in the sci-fi and fantasy worlds, because I do love those genres as well. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare. It is the second novel in her Castellane series. This is her debut epic fantasy series for adults. It is a world that takes place in a society that is inspired by medieval Venice, and that also means that there is a part of the society that is inspired by the Jews who lived in the ghetto at the time, and one of our main characters we are following is Lynn, who is a physician from this ghetto society called the Salt. And in this second book of the series, the politics are really heating up, and we're thinking through alliances and who we can trust. She has some deep relationships with some of the nobles on the hill, including the heir apparent to be king, so he's the prince now. And in Jewish content, in this book, she had previously sort of announced herself to be this messianic figure within her, religious structure. And so this exilarch comes to visit and test that theory and move her further down that path. And the exilarch is in fact based on real Babylonian Jewish history. So that's pretty cool as well. So yeah, I really love this series. I'm looking forward to the third book. The second Jewish fantasy book is The Maiden and Her Monster by Maddie Martinez. This is more of a folktale retelling of sorts. We're going into Golem territory, and in this secondary world that is based off of medieval Eastern Europe, we're in this village of the Jewish-coded people who have been being oppressed by the Christian-coded people who are trying to, make a nation state that, is forcing out other religions. And also in the woods by their community, there is this scary creature that seems to be eating women who venture into the woods. And at one point, some Christian-coded enforcers come to the village to collect some taxes, and one of them wanders into the woods and is killed. But our main character, whose name is Malka, her mother is a healer who sneaks into the woods a little herself, and so she's blamed for the killing. And Malka then steps up to say, I'm going to try to capture this creature to prove to you that my mother is innocent. So she goes into the woods to find this creature. She ends up finding a female golem. The golem is the creature made of clay. To be a protector of the Jews is usually the story for that. And from there we go into a more political storyline where the golem and Malka strike a deal that the golem will be, the creature that will be sacrificed, but only if Malka will help the golem rescue the rabbi who created her, and then we go into the main city and get into further politics about sort of the Christian nationalism of this medieval styled world. And I liked parts of it. I do think that the political parts were a little too exposition heavy, and I wasn't a huge fan of the romance between Malka and the golem, but I did like some of the commentary and the atmosphere, and it made a little bit of a splash in other Jewish awards beyond the National Jewish Book Award, so there's that. And finally, to move into science fiction, I'm just going to mention the Book of Records by Madeline Tien, which actually, as I think about it, is a contender for the BookTube prize, which is the big prize that I personally am a judge for, where we judge the best in literary fiction and nonfiction published in the US the year before. So I might possibly have the Book of Records on the long list if enough people vote for it. Although I have to admit I did not vote for it, because I did read the book, and I didn't think it was all that good overall, but there is a pretty significant Jewish component. Madeline Tien is imagining this near-future world where there is a lot of climate change realities, and the main character is a refugee, and she is able to bring 3 philosophy books out of her home to go on the run, and 2 of the books are about Hannah Arendt and Baruch Spinoza, and the 3rd is about a 9th century Chinese poet. And she has these conversations with them, and we get a little bit into their backstories. And I was rather drawn particularly to Baruch Spinoza, actually, and the way that in those chapters, we got into what it might feel like to be exiled, but still live among the community you're exiled from. And so that's something I think that stuck with me the most. Otherwise, I wasn't hugely invested in the story. It did feel a lot like a literary fiction writer slumming in genre fiction and not thinking she actually had to do any significant world building. But I figured I'd mention it anyway. Moving into books I've read and enjoyed, the next I have The Anatomy of Exile by Ziva Bukai, which I met this author and got the book signed. That was exciting as well. And this is Israeli Palestinian fiction about a Ashkenazi Mizrahi family mixed family, which this takes place between the 67 war and the 72 war, so the mixed component of it is a little more noticeable back then. And the family moves to the States from Israel after the patriarch's sister is murdered in a murder-suicide pact with her Palestinian lover, where they were meeting actually at the village where the Mizrahi family grew up back in the 60s, but this village was previously a Palestinian village where the Palestinian lover came from, so it's a very fraught situation all around. And in America, the family actually meets another Palestinian family, and the daughter gets involved with them, and there's more concern about if this sort of relationship can actually last and be sustainable, especially as politics continue to move forward. And as we're moving out of the 60s and into the 70s, the Palestinian nationalism is really becoming much more cemented as the occupation, gives them something to fight back against. And then there's just also this commentary on the Mizrahi patriarch who came from Damascus, and the similarities that he has with his Arab neighbors, and what it means to sort of be between sort of the idea of home from childhood versus where you settled as an adult. And then how his Ashkenazi wife, who was born and raised in Tel Aviv, relates to her family as well. So there's just sort of lots of microcosms of exile, and just I thought it was a poignant, moving book about family in this situations. I'm also hugely happy that my favorite read of 2025 was recognized here. I'm not really surprised. I shouldn't be, because it was great. It is Fagin the Thief by Alison Epstein. This is a retelling of sorts of Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. It's not a pure retelling because it's not only about the novel. It's about Fagin's broader life, starting as a young boy and moving into his 50s, where we go into why he made the decisions he made to become a thief and how he was influenced by his life as this impoverished Jewish citizen of Victorian England whose own father was a thief. And the book takes us through things, his relationships, the anti-Semitism he was facing, especially his relationships with Bill Sikes and a little with Nancy, and a little bit more with, Oliver and the Artful Dodger. But anyway, it was just such a moving book. I was so engrossed in it. Just the complexity of this character, the way that Epstein was able to make this rather one-note character into, somebody who was still deeply flawed, but, you could see more of his humanity and the, society he was up against as well. It was just such an engaging book. And I even, in my favorites video that my father watched, I encouraged him to pick the book up as well, so that's exciting to me too. For a book I own but haven't read yet, here is Happy New Year's by Maya Arad, translated from the Hebrew by Jessica Cohen. I read a trio of Arad's novellas that was published, I think a couple years ago, recently, and I really enjoyed them, so I'm very excited to move on into this book. I even bought it. And this, I believe, is about an Israeli expat living in the States, and the annual Rosh Hashanah letter she writes to her friends in Israel and about, the evolution of their relationships. So this feels like cozy, character-driven literary fiction to me. And the final fiction book I'll mention is Boy from the North Country by Sam Sussman. This is actually the second book that's featured in the Jewish Book Council's new book box subscription, New Books. But I was mostly drawn to it because Sam Sussman claimed first in nonfiction and now in his fiction that he is the natural son of Bob Dylan, and I believe that is what this book is fictionalizing and dramatizing. So I do find that certainly very intriguing. We have a lot of sort of clout going into this story that, was already ingrained. So, maybe I'll be able to pick it up someday. Who knows? So much to read. Okay, now moving into nonfiction, where there's definitely books on my TBR and others that might be of interest to me. I'm going to start with something I put on my 2025 releases TBR last year, so I definitely intend to get to it this year. It's As a Jew, Reclaiming Our Story from Those Who Blame, Shame, and Try to Erase Us by Sarah Hurwitz. I'm just very invested in Sarah Hurwitz as a nonfiction writer who's chronicling the modern American Jewish experience. She was a former speechwriter for the Obamas, and then she came back to Judaism as an adult and wrote a really moving depiction of what that experience is like that really spoke to me. So I'm very intrigued to move forward with her, especially since I believe in this post-October 7th atmosphere. It's just been very difficult to, live amongst a lot of people who aren't part of the community but have a lot of opinions about the manifestations of Judaism, Jewish culture, and religion. And I think it would be very helpful for us to ground our own selves in what it means to be Jewish in America today. And I think Hurwitz would be a good guide for that. Next, I'll move into a memoir with Heart of a Stranger, an unlikely rabbi's story of faith, identity, and belonging by Angela Bookdahl. Angela Bookdahl is the head rabbi of a prestigious synagogue in New York, and as the first, I believe, Korean-American female rabbi who's been ordained, she certainly has just had a lot of, attention placed on her because of that, but I think it's her influence is so much bigger than that, and because of the large community she's a part of, I think she's more famous than, just, her one synagogue would entail. And she's also been a voice of just compassion and empathy and reason for the Jewish community in the post-October 7th world. So I would be very interested in getting a broader sense of her backstory. So got to keep that, in mind for my reading. Another memoir I definitely will be getting to soon is Hostage by Ellie Sharabi. I do own it. And this is the first memoir written by one of the October 7th hostages who was returned to Israel in the past couple of years. So Sharabi was abducted from his home in a kibbutz in the south of Israel, along with his wife and children who were tragically murdered, and he was only made aware of that once he returned home. So within the world of October 7th literature, very burgeoning October 7th literature, he certainly is someone who really sticks out as a voice to be reckoned with. So I am really looking forward to getting to this. I think it'll be a bit heartbreaking as well. Next up, we have another book that's made it to the long list for the BookTube Prize, this time in nonfiction. It is Motherland, A Feminist History of Modern Russia, From Revolution to Autocracy by Julia Yaffe. And, you know, as nonfiction subtitles are wont to do, they give away the name of the game. So I think this is going to be pretty sprawling. And it covers Jewish women who were involved in a lot of Russian history throughout this long period of time. So that's certainly of interest to me, as my family, Jewish family, all comes from the Pale of Settlement, and it's a humongous part of Ashkenazi history. And I'm a little nervous because I feel like whenever I vote for, you know, a Jewish book that's made it onto the National Jewish Book Awards, when I vote for it to, you know, read it for the BookTube Prize, it never seems to make it to the long list. But maybe this year will be different. We shall see. These next two books spoke to me because they're about the history of the founding of Israel and about nationalism and Zionism and imperialism and the relationships between different cultural groups. And all of these are buzzwords today, and there's so many talking points about how we understand these concepts today, but I really want to ground myself in understanding how, you know, they were understood by, you know, the participants in the founding of Israel, you know, back in the 40s and the 30s. So the first one that I want to mention is Uncertain Empire, Jews, Nationalism, and the Fate of British Imperialism by Elizabeth E. Ember, which very much is about the political take of Jews who were like looking into the post-Holocaust future for Jews and working within sort of the decline of British imperialism and the way that different national movements were understood during mid-century, 20th century. In fact, I should put down below Jennifer Jelenkova recently named her top 10 reads of 2025, and at least one of them had to do with Central European nationalism around that time, and she also referenced how that might apply to Israel's history as well. So maybe there's another book a little outside of the scope that I should consider, but moving back to the short list for the National Jewish Book Awards, I will mention Enemies, A Love Story, Mizrahi Arab-Ashkenazi Relations Since the Dawn of Zionism by Hillel Cohen, and it's translated by Chaim Waltzman. And I think this would be good for me because it is teasing me about how we should move out of sort of a very simplified version of Jewish politics, which understands the Mizrahi community to be very right-wing and the Ashkenazi community to be very left-wing in Israel, and that might not actually be fully the case now, and to also look into ways that the Arabs, the Mizrahim, and the Ashkenazi have been interacting with each other more complexly throughout the years. That's something that is worth paying attention to as well. And the final book I'll mention today, I always want to mention a book of scholarship that I'll almost never get to because either it's above my pay grade in terms of intelligence or above my pocketbook because these scholarship books can cost a pretty penny. But here we have The Rise of Talmud by Muli Vidas, which again is about, I believe, how and why the Talmud was written, and would probably give me a more complex understanding of that point of rabbinic history as well, if I could get to it. But, you know, I've talked about 14 books here, most of which I haven't read. So much to read, so much to read. And yeah, that about covers it for me now. Hopefully I got to everything I meant to, because I sit down here and I have some notes for myself, but I never seem to be quite organized enough, so I'm, going back and forth and trying to look things up. So hopefully I got everything out. In the meantime, it's late January 2025, and I am in the DC area amidst the huge winter storm that seems to be moving up the East Coast right now. I believe this means I might even be seeing at least a day off of work. We also have some really chilly, freezing weathers coming in following this huge snowstorm, so it feels a little bit freaky right now, but a great time to get, to some reading, which seems apropos after, suggesting a whole ton of books to read, and I have so many others I want to get to as well. So that should be fun. I also hope to maintain my BookTube schedule, so expect me back on here in the near future with my monthly Author's Answer video, which is where I ask and answer myself reading and writing related questions that J.D. Archer and his writing group put together once upon a time, so stay tuned for that. I hope all of you who are in my near area, and a lot of you even far away from me on the East Coast and in the South and so forth, you're staying safe and warm and dry, and hopefully we will see a thaw in the weather soon enough. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.